Yeah, yep. Yeah,
You got there a cup of coffee?
Yeah, I got a coffee and I got my fucking seltzer here too.
Cool.
Cursing allowed or?
Oh yeah, definitely, man.
Okay,
I
cool.
can't say form a sentence without cursing.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I always just ask. I always got to make sure what type of podcast I'm on here.
It's okay. So I want to start from the beginning. Like who was like Big Koz before you got into wrestling? So who were you growing up as a kid and?
Oh, the podcast started. Oh, okay, cool.
No, I do that to everyone. If this is my podcast, you see, I just surprise people.
Yeah, wow, okay, so we already started. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I fucking with people.
I didn't know there was an intro or what it was or what happened. Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing, man. I just dive right in.
Who was Big Koz as a kid? Koz was a very, the one thing I could say about me was, I was a loving kid. I was always I was very sensitive, very emotional. Very, very. That followed me into adulthood. I'm a very sensitive person, very emotional person. Always wore my heart on my sleeve. I grew up. I grew up idolizing wrestlers. I was a wrestling fan since I was. I was 4 years old.
Oh, so you're into it for
forever.
Yeah,
I can actually tell you the first episode of wrestling I ever watched. I remember my mom and my brother were out, and my dad was in the living room watching Raw. And I walked in, and it was the one where Vince was in the hospital, and Stone Cold was dressed as a doctor, and Mankind came in with the clown and everything. And I remember I just died laughing. I was like 4 years. I was like 3 or 4 years old. And I remember I just died laughing at that, and I couldn't wait till the next episode, And that's when my whole wrestling love started. And I grew up idolizing Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah,
He was one of my biggest influences in life. It's funny too if you listen to some of Big Koz's promos, and sometimes when he's on the mic and he's kind of in character, more or less, so to say. We're kind of breaking the fourth wall here. When I'm in my character, you can hear a lot of Piper in my promos. When it comes to my wrestling, somebody just I'll always say to this day, Ric Flair is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Someone I absolutely idolize.
With the woo!
Yeah, I idolize him so much. And when you watch some of my matches, especially when I'm a heel, when I'm the bad guy, you could just see so much of Flair in what I do. And, I think the way I structure a match, the way I try to tell a story in my matches, I think has a lot to do with Flair, too. I think it's a lot based off of because Flair would go out there and do nothing. He, believe it or not, he would do nothing. And yet you couldn't stop watching him, man. He went out there and did the bare minimum. He had a very limited moveset, he didn't do much.
Just the charisma.
But it was just, he told a story with the little that he didn't, Flair was amazing with less is more.
Right.
He was great with that, and that's what makes him the GOAT, but he would do nothing, and you couldn't stop watching him, though. He had you in the palm of his hand, so he was
the best storyteller. Someone could tell a story without words.
Exactly, and that's what enough for nothing. That's what wrestling is. We're telling a story. We're in that ring telling a story with our bodies. We're the most amazing analogy that I got from my mentor, which I use to this day. I tell anybody in the wrestling business. And I got it from Dickie Rods, was what is excuse me what does a painter paint on? A canvas. What do we wrestle on? A canvas. There's a it's a canvas that covers the mat. So it's we're the artists, and we're out there to paint a picture, tell a story, and Flair was the best at that, so he was definitely someone I looked up to growing up.
Yeah,
definitely.
Did you reach any what made you start to say, I want to be a wrestler? You were into it since you were a kid.
Yeah, that's really what it was. It was a lifelong dream.
You wanted to be
oh, yeah. There was nothing else I ever wanted to do.
That's good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I heard a story once about Jerry Lewis with his comedy school. He'd ask you why you want to go to this school. The only answer he would take is because there's nothing else I see myself doing.
Yeah, no, they know it 100%.
That's how I was with a tattoo artist.
Right.
Why do you want a tattoo? It's I can't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah, so, no, 100%. The wrestling business, that was just a dream. Yeah, that's always been, I never could imagine putting a passion into anything much more than that.
Cool. Did you hit any obstacles along the way?
In wrestling?
In anything, anything in life, try to like getting your way?
Oh,
and,
yeah,
I mean,
all the time. I mean, I lost my mom when I was 17.
Oh,
I
geez,
lost my
sorry.
dad when I was 18.
Wow.
They died 8 months apart. I unfortunately lost them both to a drug overdose, an accidental overdose, unfortunately.
Yeah, I lost a brother that way.
Well,
My
yeah.
oldest brother, yeah.
Yeah, and I was a very when I was in high school, I lost weight, and I got down to like the low 300s at some point, and then after they passed, I just gained it all back plus some. Up to 3 years ago, I weighed 584 pounds. That was my highest weight 3 years ago.
Were you wrestling?
I wrestled at a weight of probably between 450 to 500. I was when I was wrestling at the biggest weight. I wrestled, which totally destroyed a lot of my body. I have a horrible left knee because of it. I have my back problems because of it. Hurdles all along the way, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of just losing people, losing friends, losing relationships at a certain point in it. When I was 25, I came out of the closet. That was a big deal.
Was that get in the way of wrestling? Was it like frowned upon, or people? Like,
no, not so much in the way of wrestling. It unfortunately got in the way of a lot of things in life. It was a point of I lost a lot. I lost people. I definitely lost people in life. I lost, some people who were comfortable with me around one time weren't anymore. Jokes that are made, are no longer funny.
Right.
They're not taken as jokes anymore, unfortunately. Things like that. So you lose people that way.
Well, those aren't really valuable people you lost.
No, absolutely
You know what I
not.
mean?
Yeah, no, it's good riddance. At that
exactly,
point, but does that come into play? Yeah. So that was a hurdle to get. But you know what? The greatest people in my life, support me and accept it. So it's great. I mean, it's been a tough battle. Not for nothing, but coming out of the closet alone, that's a battle. That's a feat within itself. You do lose people.
Yeah.
There are people, like I said, there are people that would joke with you at one point. Now they don't. They don't feel that same comfort level with you anymore.
Right.
They don't take it funny from you anymore. There are people who just are uncomfortable in general. It's still not accepted. So you do lose people, but there are people who accept it. But the thing is, coming out of the closet, it's one of the most scary. It's probably the most scariest experience I ever did.
Really?
Because your life's going to change. When you're getting ready to come out, it's nobody's going to look at you the same way. Your life changes, and it's tough.
How'd you deal with it? Was it hard?
It was actually at one point I came out because I wanted to be with somebody, somebody I was friends with, and we had we grew feelings for each other, and then I finally came out because I wanted to be with him. Unfortunately, he broke my heart. Was a that was first love lost. First heartbreak. So that was one of the worst ones I went through. But I came out because I wanted to be with him. But after that, it was tough. People do treat you different. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try to sit here and play a victim or anything like that. I'm not trying to play that card. But people do treat you differently. And it actually came down to a story I tell about my brother. My brother, very accepting. Very supportive.
Right.
But there was a point where he was overly accepting. Overly supportive,
Yeah.
It was a point
he
of
loves you, man.
I know,
he's a
and
cool guy.
he's an amazing guy. He's great, but it comes to a point of he was overly supportive, and everything started turning about being gay, and everything.
That's your older brother, right?
Yeah,
He's older than you?
Yeah, I only have one.
Right.
Yeah, my older brother, but everything became about supporting gays and being a gay ally and this and that. And it's just, here's the thing, I'm not.
It's like tone it down,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, exactly. Pull it back a little bit, because I'm not that way, and God bless the ones that are. Nothing. Great for the ones that are. I'm not. Putting anyone down here, but I personally just am not a. I'm not the word. I guess the word used to be flamboyant. I guess,
Right,
or
right.
so to say, or feminine in a
Yeah.
way, where some people are, and God bless. Again, God bless the ones that are. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's just not me. I have more. Of
I never would. I mean, when you did that wrestling, we're at the wrestling show, and you had that thing, and like the video promo,
Right.
and then it came out, and then it had the rainbow flag. I was
Right,
like, oh
right.
shit.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
never
many
would've
people
known.
don't. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't have a I guess what would be known as a stereotypical personality. I
Yeah.
guess to be politically correct. But I have more of a macho,
Yeah,
masculine
yeah.
personality. And there are a lot of gay people who are. I'm not the only one. Um,
Yeah, it's just your
Yeah.
preference. It's not like
No,
someone
exactly.
Likes redheads
Exactly.
knocking around. Hey, I love
Right.
redheads. I love
Right.
redheads.
Exactly.
I love
It's
redheads.
just a preference of who
Yeah.
you are. It's your own personality. It's
Yeah.
it's not it's not an act. It's who you are. So, I'm just not that way in general. I don't kind of follow along with, I guess, a stereotype gay lifestyle. I just kind of live my normal life.
Yeah.
And I remember when I just kind of called my brother out on it, and I said, why is and here's the thing. It's like when you realize it's not the world. It's if it's everybody, then usually it's you. It really wasn't me. Everybody else was treating me differently. I wasn't acting any different. I was the same person.
Yeah.
And when I said that to him, he goes, and my brother tried to defend it in a way, and he goes, you got to realize, he goes, we only know you one way.
Right.
And I said, I haven't changed.
Yeah,
You all
yeah.
just look at me differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
I go, I haven't done anything different. I haven't started acting different. I haven't started having a different personality or different hobbies or
Yeah,
different
yeah.
interests. I told him, I said, I'm still your brother who loves wrestling, who loves sports, who will sit there on the couch with you on a Sunday,
Yeah.
eat wings and chug a beer. The only difference between us now is while you're looking at the cheerleaders, I'm looking at the players. That's literally the only difference between us.
That's great.
I'm still the same person. And he got it right there. And then actually he looked right at me and just goes, we're good.
Yeah,
He just
yeah.
said that to me. He goes, we're good. I get it.
Yeah.
He goes, we're good here. He goes, I completely get it. And then since what I just meant was just treat me normal. Like
Yeah.
I'm not looking for,
Yeah.
over support or be just, when I bring a guy home, just, shake his hand and be happy for me.
Yeah.
That's really all I'm asking.
Just bringing home a friend.
There's
man.
nothing different I want in life. I don't, there's nothing, I always say, I said, I just want the same thing everyone else wants. I want to fall in love one day and, have the house with the white picket fence and,
Right.
and just have someone to grow old with and to die with, That's, when it comes to love, that's all I really want. I don't need no special treatment.
Yeah.
I just want the same thing everyone else wants, So that's me, though. I mean, good for the ones that do, and God
Yeah.
bless the ones that do, and the ones that love to keep fighting and, putting it out there and definitely fighting for the rights, because there's still a lot of hate for it, unfortunately.
You'll never get rid of
No,
hatred,
no, you
though.
can't.
It's
No, you can't,
Human
but,
nature. I turn my. I don't know why my phone does this.
That's all right.
I put it on theater mode, but it still makes noises. You're supposed to. Two of my guests so far said every time my phone goes off, you got to take a shot. We don't have whiskey though, so I'll just put it all the way over here, so maybe we won't hear it. So I think that's part of the deal.
Gotcha. But the ones that do fight, the ones that keep putting it out, I think it's still needed. I think it's still necessary. Awareness is necessary. I'm not going to get into political,
Yeah.
discussion about it, but let's just say that the rights need to be there for everybody. There's no reason that everyone shouldn't have the same rights. Or I will also say I agree, the same representation as anybody else.
Yeah.
So that's my belief.
I mean, I think the right should just be based on you being a human being.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's the right to get married, of course we deserve
Yeah.
the right to get married. Why
Yeah.
shouldn't we?
Who cares,
Yeah, we have the right to be miserable as everyone else is, as all you straight
Exactly,
people
yeah.
are. We have the same right.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Do you have any like mentors? Like people help you out in wrestling?
Oh yeah, actually, the one I got, my biggest mentor, I actually have a match against in September, would be Mr. Dickie Rods.
Oh, okay, yeah. He was,
you
wasn't
know.
he out on the list?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
came
okay.
out and attacked me, beat the
Right.
hell out of
Yeah,
me. Yeah. Setting up a match between me and him in September. Dickie's my biggest mentor in pro wrestling.
Oh, that's cool.
He when I the story of him teaching me everything I know, that's not even a lie, it's not a
Wow.
story, that's absolutely truth. Everything I do, everything I know is because of him, and the greatest thing I bring to the ring in my wrestling that I take pride over, like I said about Flair, is my storytelling. Ring psychology is such a big deal. That's unfortunately a lost art these days.
Right.
It's how do you make this make sense? And unfortunately, that gets lost because so many people these days, it's all about going in and getting your moves in. They just take it as they want to get their whole repertoire in one match, And to me, it's like, I do maybe 2 or 3 moves in the whole match. Other than that, I'm just kind of striking and just taunting and just milking it and just telling a story, so to say, and he's the one who put that in my head. He's really been everything I do, everything I can do in the ring, everything I understand about wrestling is because of Dickie Rods, and I got to always give him that credit.
He give you a lot of advice. What's the main thing he asked, like, told you that stuck with you?
It's the biggest thing he puts in is just to make everything make sense. Why do we do things? Why would we do something that doesn't make sense? He gave me the analogy of the painter and the canvas.
Oh, really?
That was him. Yeah, that was completely him that gave that to me. But he, it's just to always make a story make sense. Always make the match make sense. It's a point of, if I'm the bad guy, and he says, you want to do a big move, why are we picking them up? Why would we pick the guy up? He goes, what's the point of the match? To win. He goes, right. So the point of if they're on the ground, they're in pinning position, why am I picking them up?
Yeah. Well,
let the good guy work up. Let him fight up. Let him work his way to his feet, and then you go do your big move to them. Like, don't pick. Just little things like that. It's all the little things of make it make sense.
Right.
Put psychology behind it. That's the biggest thing with me. And another wrestler, pro wrestler, Leo Sparrow. He's a big wrestler on the indie scene. He told me one time, when you're planning your match and you're doing it, it needs to flow. He goes, it needs to tell a story. And if I put the two of them together, the biggest thing I've learned is when you're doing your match, if it's not telling a story, that's why you forget your match. When you're structuring the match, when you're planning it, coming up with it, the whole point is if you keep forgetting what the next move is supposed to be, if you keep forgetting what's coming next, your match doesn't tell a story. Because if it told a story, you'd easily remember the whole sequence. So things like that is just big things I always keep in my head. You
got a good storyline going. Was that KDP?
KBP, yep, KBP.
That's all you, huh?
Like
you started that.
I keep that under wraps usually.
Oh, sorry.
No, I keep that. No, but I do. It's me and my brother. It's our company. It's one thing is a lot of people don't know is what KBP actually stands for, and it does stand for Koz Brothers Productions. So we just we keep that under wraps because the fact that this is a fourth wall break interview right now.
Right.
We're totally
Should I
throwing
cut that
kayfabe out the window here. No, you're fine. We're just it's totally throwing kayfabe out the window, which is fine. But it's a point of
got to come out sometime.
It does, yeah. You got to break the fourth wall now and then. But we KBP. Since I'm an active roster member, I don't take an authority figure in the show, so to say. We let my brother run it, and that's why we call it KBP Wrestling.
You sit at the round table, in other words.
Yeah,
everyone's
pretty much.
Equal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool.
And so we. I try not to. We try not to say that I'm an owner, so to say, but we do.
Someone's got to own it, though.
Exactly. Well, yeah, we focus more on my brother being the owner, more or less. And that's also why we. That's why we always say KBP Wrestling. We never actually say what the initials stand for. But yeah, we got a hell of a story going on in that right now. Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
Did you ever have a problem with like drugs or anything like that?
No. I dabbled in marijuana, but that's no. I never.
So you get very heavy.
Never had a drug problem. Food, I would say was probably one of my worst addictions. I'm a nicotine smoker as well. I'm not proud of that, but we all have our vices.
Are you you smoke and you
I do. Yeah, it's
really?
wild, ain't it? Yeah. I do vape. Not proud of that, but I do openly admit that. But food was probably always my biggest worst addiction was food, and not for nothing, it is an addiction. It is a terrible addiction, I will always admit that. It's really bad. It's hard to break, and it's one of the hardest ones, I'd say, because food's everywhere, you don't have to walk. Cigarettes, alcohol, it's all promoted and advertised, but at the same time, not like food. You can't turn on you can't turn on the TV, you can't turn on the radio, you can't walk past a store or drive down the street without food being thrown in your face. So
in Mastic, you have Fat Square. They call it. It's every place you could.
It's hard. Every corner there's something. Every parking lot there's things. Especially in New York. every parking lot there's a pizzeria and a deli, or
Yeah.
a bagel shop, so it's hard. It's tough. Not to mention we're a country of trans fats and and sugar, so it's hard not to be tempted. It's a hard addiction to break.
So how'd you first you wanted to be a wrestler, right? Of course. And how'd you break into it? How'd you get involved in I guess there's what do they call them? Independent things on Long Island?
Wrestling. Yeah, so I Victory Pro Wrestling, which is just a company now. But did have a school back in the day.
Right.
I joined there, I believe I was 18 or 19. I joined their school, and I trained with them. Now,
are they in Port Jeff?
No, they used to train out of the Deer Park the community center.
Oh.
They would have training, and they would also do shows every other month, because every other month they would do shows out here in Center Reach at the old VFW hall, which is no longer the VFW hall. Right. And now they do it and then they would do it in the Deer Park Community Center as well. And I was only about 4 months in before they first threw me in there.
Oh, wow.
Usually you train for a year before you get on the shows. And I was about 4 months in. Mind you, I'm 19. I think I just turned 20. 20-year-old kid, 450 pounds,
Wow.
Big boy. And I'll tell you the story about Big Koz. So they originally had this other guy named Mr. OA, who was a greaser character, and he would go, oh, hey, so Mr. OA. And they said it was a birthday show, which, independent companies, including NYWC, they do birthday parties where you could rent out the facility, and they'll do they'll put on a small birthday show, and you can bring pizzas. They do a whole lunch and everything like that.
Cool.
And, they do a birthday show for, the party. So it was actually a birthday show, and they said, we're going to put you with Mr. OA. Okay, cool. Now I had a security T-shirt and a pair of sweatpants, right? Because I wasn't expecting to do anything. And I was doing security for them on the shows, because you pay your dues,
right,
so
yeah.
you do whatever you feel in. And they didn't want me to referee or anything like that, because they said you're going to be too noticeable when you get on the roster,
Right,
So it's, they just had me do security. So I had my security shirt, a pair of sweatpants, and my wrestling shoes, and I went out there and did my best, And they originally gave me the name Big Al.
Big Al.
Big Al,
Okay.
like from Happy Days, right?
Right.
The guy who ran Arnold's, Big Al.
Right.
And so we do we do the show. They do the introduction, being accompanied by his manager, Big Al, right? I'm just didn't feel right, Big Al did not feel right. And so after the show, we do the thing, and they say to me, all right, we're going to stick you with Mr. OA. We're going to keep you with him. We're actually going to put you on the main shows and stuff, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. So now I'm adopting the greaser gimmick. It wasn't an original gimmick for me.
Right.
It was actually adopted by the person I was originally put
Right.
with. So it's funny, the gimmick I still do to this day, and I take, was something I took from my original tag team partner, which, God, that was 12, 13 years ago.
Wow.
That.
He's still around?
No, he left a few months after that. He was done. Yeah, literally
He said,
just a few months.
I'm done.
Literally a few months after that, he did his last match, and he hasn't been on the wrestling scene since. So it's funny that I adopted it. He left just a couple months after that, and I've been running with it ever since.
That's cool.
So after the show, they said, we're going to keep you. I said, okay. I need to ask you a question. Now, we need to do something about that name. I can't do Big Al. And they just, why? And I said,
stupid.
I said, because here's the thing: you're thinking of Big Al from Happy Days.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the guy in the chicken suit from Toy Story 2.
Oh,
and I'm just thinking of, you could say Big Box, and I'm just thinking of Big Al's Toy Barn.
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't do that. And I'm just like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I already got, Koz has already been my nickname. It was my nickname since I was in 7th grade, because, it was when I was, on the wrestling team and stuff in high school and everything. That's what I was Koz. So I said, I already got Koz, Koz on my arm, tattooed on my arm. Let's just go with Big Koz, And they go, nah, I don't know. And I was just like, well, what about Big Koz? And he goes, oh, nah, there's too many fucking there's too many fucking initials in pro wrestling these days. We're not doing. So I go, what do you want to do here, man? I said, I don't mind the big part. We just need to drop Al. It doesn't fit me, you know? And he just goes, all right, you know what? The hell with it. We'll just go with Big Koz. Big Koz it is. We'll just stick with Big Koz.
That's fucking great, man.
And that's, I was 19, 20 years old. I got my, and I've had the same name and, you know, gimmick ever since, you know? So it's interesting. You know, yeah.
So what that first fight, I feel like, though, you kind of got into that anyway, but...
So that's when I managed my first. Funny enough, just not too long after that, it was like I said, I was maybe like 5 months in. I had my first. I got to the show. I thought I was just going to be managing OA in his match, you know. And they said, you know, this guy who was a clown character. His name was Super Pogo, and he comes up to me. A real guy's name was Pat, great guy, and he goes, "Hey man, we're going to be working tonight. You know, we're going to be working." And I was just like, he's like, "I think we could do this." I go, "And you mean in your match with OA?" And he looks, he goes, "Nah, man, we're wrestling tonight." And I went, "Get the fuck out!" So I walked up to the promoter. I go, Sean Donnie Bon Jovi, and I just walked up to him. And I said, "Do I have a match tonight?" He goes, "Yeah, you're going against Super Pogo. You're going over." And I just went, "Get the fuck out of here!" Right?
Well, no shit. Big deal, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, it was huge. It was December. It was December of 2013. December of 2013. Wow. And I had my first match against a clown, and it's actually still up on YouTube. Embarrassingly, it's not my video, so I can't take it down. But yes, it is.
I won't leak it.
It is. Yeah, no, it is. It is still up. But yeah. Yeah, my original first ever debut match, was against Super Pogo. Pat was, I wonder how he's doing, man. He was a great guy. I hope he's doing well.
He was a clown?
Yeah, it was a clown character.
Clown?
Yeah,
really?
Super Pogo, yeah.
That's crazy.
Good guy. Yeah, but Pat was a great guy. Really good dude.
I know you have an ally you were telling me about when I was doing that tattoo. That's healing really good, by the way.
This one, okay. We want to talk about this guy? Because there's a lot to talk about with him.
Get a little too much ointment on there, I think.
Do I? I've been trying to keep it wet, I guess, so to say. Like,
keep it
moist. At least for the first few days, I've been trying to at least keep it moist. But
that's all right. Yeah, it's got the shine. You're good.
Yeah,
I'm just being picky.
Al, more than an ally, man. This is my best friend. I say my number one right here. Known to everybody as Ziggy Danger. You know, he's pro wrestler too. He's my tag team partner. We do a team called Dangerously Cool, which we're doing amazing things with. This kid shows me a friendship, man, like no one ever has. A love that no one ever has. It's my past, without getting too deep into it. I've been hurt a lot, man. I've been hurt a lot, and I've been used and abused, so to say. I've been used, taken advantage of, and then just left for dry, This kid, before I can even do anything for him that I've done for people in the past, he does it for me first.
Wow.
It's he brings the love before I even have a chance to. And then, I'm happy to reciprocate it, and I always do. But it's a point of, it's a hell of a feeling to always be the original giver, to now be the one to be the reciprocator, to actually have to pay him back for the love, because, he's always one of the first ones to give it. And, the one thing I love him so much, and I feel bad because a lot of accusations come our way, and I feel bad. He's completely straight, and I feel bad. I feel bad for him in that sense. And we always
people are fucked up.
Oh yeah, and I always feel bad for him. And here's the thing too. We have a hell of when you feel we have a very sentimental, very emotional attachment. Like when I say this kid is, in the most platonic way to say it, a soulmate. He really is. He is like a brother. He is my brother. Yeah, no, he really is. When I say he's my number one, I truly mean my number one. And he but when we're together, we're not like normal friends. We have a very loving, friendly connection. Like you could tell there's a serious chemistry between us. The thing is, because I'm gay, that gets misconstrued.
That don't bother him, though.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It bothers me. I mean, I'm used to it, but like, I feel bad because I hate that he would have to, be accused, and
I'm sure he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. And he tells me, no, he doesn't. He makes sure he tells me that too. He lets me know. He goes, Koz, I don't give a fuck about that. And the love that we literally have, I know he doesn't. And when When I say he's my guardian angel, I truly say that, and I thank God. I say that he is the biggest prayer answered and miracle God ever put in my life, because I did not know someone could actually love me and be the best friend to me that he is. Like, I didn't know someone could actually care about me that way, because no one ever has, and I've been blinded in a lot of friendships.
How'd you guys hook up though? Like, as friends?
I was funny enough. I was a fan of his as a wrestler.
Really?
Yeah, I followed him on social media, and it was funny. It was right when I was getting KBP started. It was actually interesting. Me and Jasper,
right.
yeah, right. So me and Jasper were actually,
Newton,
Jasper
yeah.
Newton. We were actually,
I know him.
we were at a show in Port Jeff. It was September 20th of last year, 2024, right. And we were at a show in Port Jeff, and I was just getting KBP started, and I said to him, I was still booking, for the first show back in December, and I said to him, it was funny enough. I love telling the story. I said, have you ever? I looked at Jasper. I go, did you ever hear of this guy Ziggy Danger? And he goes, Jasper, he goes, nah, brother, I never, never. That's my best impression of him. I was like, nah, brother, I don't know, who is he? And I said, he used to tag with Live Danger, because we both know Live Danger, the tag team. And so I said, he used to be like, I said, but he's such a great talent. I go, he's such a good wrestler. I follow him on Instagram. I follow him on Facebook. I said, he's so damn good, man. I really love him. I said, thinking about reaching out to him and seeing if he wants to be on KBP. And Jasper was like, yeah, brother, reach out to him if you want him. I said, all right. Funny enough, we're in the locker room that night, right, at that show, because we were waiting for the ring truck to show up. That night, we're in the locker room, and somebody walks past to talk about their match, and I hear him go, yeah, so then Ziggy's going to come out, blah, blah, blah. And I pop my head over. I go, Ziggy Danger? And they just go, yeah. And I go, he's going to be here? And then right there, it was like a Hallmark movie. Like, he just turns around all slowly, just like, puts the hand up. And I popped. I marked out. I went, oh, shit.
You were like starstruck.
Yeah, I did. I really was, because I followed this kid. I was just a couple hours ago, I was putting him over to Jasper.
Right.
And I literally went, oh, shit. And like the whole locker room looked at me. Yeah. And I finally, I just looked at him. I said, bro, I'm a mark for you.
Yeah.
And he came over to talk to me, and I actually booked him for the show, that night for KBP. And, we started talking a little bit here and there, more business, so to say. And then after the first KBP show, I don't know, there's something about it. We just connected,
right.
And, January came out to train for a bit, and then it turned from training into, deep conversations.
Right.
We started having a couple heart-to-hearts and started to get to know each other more and more. And then, we officially became best friends on April 16th, this
awesome.
year.
That's the day before my birthday. Oh,
is that right?
Yeah.
So April 16th was our official
and that's cool. You remember the day. That shows
dates
your
are important
friendship.
to me. Yeah, dates have always been an important thing to me.
Cool.
Like I'm very big on dates.
Cool.
Dates mean something, and because dates, when you remember a date, it means time. Time is valuable. Time is precious.
So much.
Exactly. Time is one of the most valuable thing you can have, because once it's spent, it's gone. There's no getting it back. So remembering a date is understanding time, and when you understand time, things become more valuable. So, when April 16th hits, knowing that it has been officially a year, as best friend, we actually have plans to get tattoos together for our tag team on April 16th on the 1 year. But it's like when you hit those kind of things, it means something. It means like time just means something. So dates are a very big deal to me. So yeah, and we just got closer and closer. April 16th, and then we literally call each other number ones. We're number one best friends. Like we say, we have others, but like. We're the top on the list for each other. It's a point of that we found each other when we needed each other the most, and I think that's what it comes to. I think that's why the connection's so strong there compared to any other person that I was blinded to, was because when I became best friends, they didn't need me. I needed them, and that's where the problem.
It was mutual.
We needed me and Zig need each other.
That is an answer to your prayer. Like
yeah,
you said.
that's he was. He was definitely a prayer.
Yeah.
I needed him, but you know what? He we found each other when we needed each other the most, and we both have been through a lot in our lives. And I'm not going to spread his business, but I'll spread my own. But I'm not going to spread his business. But he's that kid's been through a hell of a lot, and yet I think it's our experiences from our past that made us perfect for each other, because me and him have, like, I'm not going to say he doesn't have faults. We both do. We both have so serious faults. But the thing is, it's actually those faults that make us perfect for each other. It's the imperfections that make us perfect best friends. And, and it's the fact that I know all of his, he knows all of mine, and we love and accept each other for him. And I think that's what we always missed from, because he's been stabbed in the back too. He has ex-best friends. And I think it's the point of once our true faults are revealed, people leave. And I think it's the point of we already opened up to each other about all of them. And it just made us love each other more. It made us I think it made us understand that we needed each other more. That just made us understand that we need
I wonder how many friends can actually say, "Yeah, I love this guy."
I
seriously mean.
I would hope.
It's
sad. If there's not a lot, that's sad.
Yeah.
Love is. Love is. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be taken any wrong way. Love is love, and I love that. Yeah, I love that kid to death. I love him more. I tell him all the time, I love him more than anyone or anything on this earth, man, because he came in and showed me a love that no one ever has. And, when I say he's my guardian angel, when I say he's my best friend, my number one, I mean it wholeheartedly. And when I say he's the biggest blessing and miracle and prayer answered, God ever put I thank God every day for him.
So God's another friend of yours.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Like Jesus, you follow Jesus?
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Awesome.
yeah. I actually just got done with season 5 of The Chosen, which was
show.
great.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, I finished. Yeah,
I still got the last 3 episodes.
Oh, yeah, no, I finished it. Oh, man, wait till you see how it ends. Oh, it's great. Now, I heard the next season isn't coming out until 2027.
Oh,
believe it or not, it's going to be 2 years, and I'm waiting on it now. That's an interesting story if you wanted to hear that one.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Can I just take a quick second?
Yeah,
Quick drink? All right, yeah. But it's actually interesting. I lived, I had a grudge against God for a very long time. I always believed. Yeah. Never was an atheist or disbelieved him. I always believed, but I had a lot of problems with him, and it all started after my parents passed away. And my parents passed. I was bitter at the world, man. I had a grudge against everybody. I had a grudge against anyone. And the biggest person I feel the worst for about that is my brother. I wasn't right for a long time, man. I felt like, I don't know, I guess in an immature sense, I mind you, I was 17 and 18 when they passed, so I was a kid. Yeah. But I think in my head, the world owed me something, and unfortunately it was, I felt like my brother was supposed to be the one to pay that price. I don't know, and I don't think, I wasn't grateful for everything my brother would do for me, and nowadays, I show nothing but appreciation and love for my brother, everything he's ever done for me. But, back then, I don't think I was, I don't know. I was just very bitter. But, I was bitter at God. And then being so overweight, being gay, it's just all the people who've hurt me in my life, all the heartache I've had, all the people who've walked out.
Kind of like a why me.
Yeah, it's you feel cursed in a sense, and why? Why? And then when I did come out, it's the point of so many people make you feel like, when you say you're gay, it's be said that you're a walking sin, you're a living abomination, you're not worthy of God's love, and these are the things you read, these are the things you see and you hear. It's hard to come around.
But you know what? How do they know?
No, they don't, and I can prove that they don't. I'm living proof that they don't, because I lived my 20s too. There was an old show, not an old show, it's older now, but it was called Nurse Jackie. That was on. Okay. That was on, Showtime. That, yeah, Edie Falco. And in the first episode, she brings it back in the last episode too. But in the first episode, she's talking about a saint, and the one line she uses is "Make me good, God, just not yet." Right, and I kind of lived my 20s on that saying. Make me good, God, just not yet. One day I'll be good, but I'm okay, just not right now. Yeah. And I remember I was 29. I was about a year and a half. I think I was about a year into losing the weight.
How old are you now?
I'm 31. I'm about to be 32 in a few months. But I was 29. I was a year into losing weight. I was just starting to lose it and everything. And I was probably about 100 something pounds down at this point. I have a lot of regrets from my past. I have
we all do, man.
a lot,
We all
yeah,
do.
a lot of regrets, a lot of things I wasn't proud of. And I just finally, I remember I was talking to this one woman at work, Miss Ruthie, older African American woman who, was, very spiritual, very, godlike. And I said to her, I remember I cried one day to her, and I said, I just want a relationship with God. And I said, I just don't know how. It's too, like I'm too deep in,
Yeah.
And she said to me, she goes, it's never too late,
No,
it's never too late. And she goes, and I said, I wouldn't even know what to say. She goes, just talk. She goes, say everything. She goes, do you think he doesn't already know? She goes, just talk to him, ask for his forgiveness. She goes, once you talk to him, I just remember her saying this, and I tell this to everybody who feels like this. I say, once you talk to him, that first conversation, he's going to wrap his arms around you and say, come here, baby boy, I got you, And I remember it was it was 2023, 2 years ago. It was June 2nd, that was my mom's birthday. And I sat down on my bed, and I had about an hour-long conversation with him.
No.
And I haven't talked to him in a very long time. And I apologized for a lot. I asked for forgiveness for a lot of my life, all my past regrets, my mistakes, things, asked him for forgiveness for holding a grudge for so long, holding a grudge against him. Asked for strength to, forgive my parents eventually, which I did since then, which was one of the most amazing experiences. I just asked him I said, can you please show me that if we could have a relationship? Show me that you forgive me. Show me that you love me. And I'll be honest with you, I started praying every day. And I was less than a week later. Oh, man, the blessings that just start pouring in, man.
Really?
Things that are just
Awesome.
Unexplainable. Like, you just can't even explain it. And it's just, it's His grace, man. It's His mercy and His love. And God is just so good. And just, when He showed me that, it was just how undeniable it is. And so it's been a little over 2 years now. I've had a very strong relationship with him. And, I read my Bible. I do my thing. I talk to him. I do my studies, and I preach it. I'm a gay man who preaches it because God doesn't hate gays. God loves everyone. It's, there's a lot about what the Bible says about gay people. There's, documentaries and different things. There's an amazing documentary on Prime called 1946, a mistranslation that shifted a culture, or something in that nature. But it was 1946.
It's on Netflix now?
It's on Prime, actually, Prime.
Right.
And it's all about how it wasn't until 1946 that the things that talk about homosexuality in the Bible were translated as homosexuality. They had different meanings prior to that. So, there's a lot to that. So, I won't even get too deep into it, but let's just put it that, if you really go deep into it and you see what the original the actual Bible said before it was retranslated, I'll just say, God doesn't hate anyone. God is love. Jesus is love, and God loves everyone. He makes you the way you are, and when you look at it, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter who you are. God didn't want me to be gay. He wouldn't have made me gay. He makes that. His love is for everyone. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that, and not for nothing, but even if you've done the worst things in your past, man, the things I've learned about God is that God is love. Yeah. And the two greatest things I tell to everybody, I go, one, it's never too late. You could literally be on your deathbed of living 70 years of sin. And if you're on your deathbed and you turn to Him, He will take you. And two, there's an endless amount of chances. You fuck up 50 times, He'll accept you back 51. He'll give you a 51st chance. That's how He is. There's an endless amount of chances. He's not human. He's not a 2-3 strikes you're out. It's he loves you no matter what. And I preach that now. I tell people, just the moment you take the smallest step towards Him, He will come running to you. Because God is love. And when you think about Jesus, you think about His disciples, They were the most imperfect people there were.
Yeah.
They were probably the worst types of people on this world, but he took them because those are the people that believe the most. Those are God's greatest children.
Yeah.
May he who lived without sin cast the first stone. You know what I'm saying? It's a point of we're all sinners. We're all, it's like who are any of us to try to act like we're better than the next?
And then from The Chosen, if you're watching that, like you said, the Pharisees who thought that they were all high and mighty with the following God's law, they went straight to hell, man. You know what I mean? They didn't pass go or collect $200, man.
It's true, and that's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter what you've done, what background you come from, who you are. It doesn't matter what religion you come from. God is love. God loves you, and it's never too late to turn to Him. And when people, the biggest, I listen to people like Joel Osteen, where I told you about, and I always love to listen to Tyler Perry and Steve Harvey. I listen to the messages they preach because I just love the way when people, the way they all put it, when they preach. And one of the biggest things is when I talk about, people go, oh, I don't know. And I go, well, here, what do you got to lose? Just talk to them. Try it. Try it out, because what do you got to lose? And also, if you've been living without God this long, how's that been going?
Right.
How's that been going for you? So what do you got to lose to try it, And when you do, I just tell people, I go, you're going to see. You're going to feel a difference. You're going to see a difference. You're going to see that God's presence, God's love is there, and when He, go ahead and try. I tell people to try Him. He'll check you. God will check you. God will show you. Oh, I'm here. You don't believe it? I'll show you I'm here. And He'll check you, and He'll show you things that are undeniable. And and the one biggest thing I gotta say is, Ziggy Danger is probably one of the biggest proofs of that. Because
is he religious?
No, not very. But it's funny. He's I'm not going to say much about it. But his eyes are. He's starting to see things I talk about. Let's just put it that way. And I always tell him I would never force it on him, and I don't force it on anybody, But I tell myself I'm always going to try to point it out to you when I see things, and he sees that. He'll see all the things that I point out to him. I go, do you see?
One of these.
See? Oh, okay. I would love that. Yeah, thank you. And he. But he sees it when I show it to him, and I think he's starting to. He thinks there's something up there, and again, I'm not going to get into his religious beliefs too much, but his eyes are starting to open, and you know what? That's probably one of the greatest gifts he could give me is to keep an open mind at least about it, which he does. So that much I will give him. Yeah, he does, and but I always tell him, and I always tell him all the time, you got to believe because I said, I can't accept the fact that one of God's greatest guardian angels doesn't
right.
So he's really starting to open his eyes to things, and it's a beautiful thing to see. But I have the greatest relationship with God. It's been over 2 years now, and I put things in His hands because even when things you feel like things are going rough, He'll get you through it, and there's a reason for it. Setbacks are usually setups. When He takes something from you, He returns it double. And it's true. He shows me that all the time, and it's God is love. God is love, and that's the greatest message I could preach.
I think that's what's missing from a lot of other religions is love.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I personally not. I mean, listen, anyone who follows a specific religion, God bless. I'm not. And here's the thing. I'm willing to do anything with anyone to make them feel more connected with God. If a Jewish person wants me, to read the Torah with them or whatever, or speak, I don't know it, but if you want to teach it to me, I will be happy to do it with you. At the holidays, you want me to come over and light the menorah with you, I'd be more than happy to. If a Muslim wants to me to get on the the mat and pray, I don't know how. If you want to show me, I will be more than happy to do it with you. If a Catholic wants me to say 100 Hail Marys with them, I am more than happy to say it with them. No problem. If somebody just wants me to pray with them and wants me to introduce them, here's the thing. I promise you, God already knows who you are. But if you want me to introduce, I'd be more than happy to. If somebody just wants me to pray, then I'll pray. It's a point of anything. So if you follow a specific religion and that's what makes you feel connected with God, following the practices of that religion, then go for it. I never discourage that. Me personally, no, I don't follow a specific religion. I consider myself a spiritualist. I believe in God and heaven and Jesus. I read the Bible. I believe in the Bible. I just don't believe in a man-made organization, to follow the rules of. I believe in, just following the word of God himself. When I also don't listen to other people's translations of the Bible. I read the Bible and I get my message out of it.
Which version do you like the best? Do you read the King James or?
I do read the King James.
I like
I usually do. Do you?
Yeah, New Living Translation.
Yeah,
it's just easier to read, and then I have the New King James version because it's easy to read.
Yeah, I like the New King James version. I have a couple different ones I go back and forth on. Because I have one that's a study Bible. I have one that's a regular Bible. The King James, the New King James. So I have a few different ones I go back and I look at because it's honestly all different translations. But and then I also have this study Bible on Audible. So
cool.
She'll read it to you and then she'll kind of explain the passage to you and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. I listen to that too. But I forgot where I was going with that.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
No. I read the Bible, but when I'm reading the Bible, that's what it was. When I'm reading the Bible, or if I'm listening to whatever passage I'm listening or reading, that it's what is God saying to me in that I don't need to listen to someone else's translation because there's some reason I'm reading it. There's got to be something that has to do with me in that moment. And here's the thing: I could read that passage 100 different days. I should be able to get 100 different meanings out of it. It's what is God saying to me in that moment that I need. What is He trying to say to me through that passage? One passage doesn't have one meaning. It's what is it telling you right now? Right. So that's my belief with it. But that's me.
Yeah. Well, that's why the passage that got me was it Luke 20:10, I believe. It's the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, because I got lost tattooed on my knuckles.
Yeah.
Because I've always considered myself lost.
Right.
And the lost podcaster.
Right.
And when I saw that, I was like, fuck. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like, holy shit, that
Right.
hit me. I was like, I'm lost.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's just it spoke to me.
Yeah. No, there's a few that I love. A few different passages. There's a few stories I love. I remember Tyler Perry broke down the story of Abraham and Isaac. When they were about to go up a mountain. To sacrifice Isaac. And I love that story because one thing Tyler Perry pointed out, which I loved, was when he tells the servants to stay at the bottom, and him and Isaac are going to go up. He says, "We will return."
Oh yeah.
He says that. He says, "We will return." He knew Isaac was coming back with him. He knew.
Right.
He had all the trust and faith in God, and that's what you got to do. Sometimes things are a test. Sometimes you think you're about to give up something that you're actually not giving up. Or if you think you're about to give it up, it's going to be returned to you double. And that's what I truly believe. You got to have your faith. You got to trust. You got to trust in God. Job, the story of Job.
Oh yeah, that story fucked me up, man.
Yeah, it does. It's a hell of a story. Yeah, but enough for nothing though. But again, he got returned double everything he lost. And it's a point of that's what we got to realize when we're in hard times, when we lose something, when somebody walks out on us, when we go through a hard time, when something bad happens. God's going to return it double, It's a point of something good that's going to come from it. And it's hard to understand in that moment. But, even I've been experiencing that lately. And I said, when I lose something, man, I give it to God. And I go, I know I'll be paid back for this. And it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen right away, And it eventually comes, So I believe in that, But, I especially love the story of Abraham and Isaac. It's going up that. I love that story.
I got to reread that.
Yeah, Abraham knew. And Tyler. I will. I got to give credit to Tyler Perry the way he broke it down. But it really is amazing because it's. He had the trust in God. He knew. And it's a point of he's just let God guide you. That's really the point. But yeah.
So what would you hope people say about you like years from now, like when you're retired or moved on or whatever? Like, what do you hope your legacy is?
Wow, that's a great question. Wow, good question. I want to be remembered as someone who people feel made a difference. someone who people feel came in, changed things, good to work with. I just want to be someone who everyone has a good story to tell. You know, I don't need any kind of, would I love a big lasting legacy? Sure, who wouldn't? But I think it comes to a point of I just want people to have a good story to tell.
It's very humble.
When they hear my name, there's just nothing but a good word.
Right.
Nothing but good things to say, good stories to have. Just to be known as someone who loved, who loved the world, who believed in good, who was positive, who loved. I just want to be known as someone who loved, who showed people that they are lovable and capable of loving.
I think people are saying that about you now.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I hope so, and I guess that's really it. I think I just want to always be somebody who is remembered. So I want to be someone who's unforgettable. I guess that'd be the one thing. No matter how that comes about, just in a good way of just people have a hard time forgetting me. Yeah,
that was good, man.
Oh, thanks.
Anything else you want to say? I forgot to ask you. You wanted to get out?
No, no. I think that's been great. I'm just doing what I love right now. I'm doing it for as long as I can. Like I said, my body's kind of damaged. It's broken. When it comes to my weight loss, I didn't get too much into that, but I lost over 350 pounds just naturally. No surgery, no doctors, no nothing. Great. And mind you, I went from someone who was almost 600 pounds, someone who couldn't walk through a parking lot.
Wow.
And last year, I was a contestant on Mr. Health and Fitness 2024 from Muscle and Fitness Magazine.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they had Mr. Health and Fitness 2024. Muscle and Fitness Magazine runs the contest, and I was actually in it last year. I was in the competition. Awesome. So, I guess the biggest thing I just want, is... if you want something bad enough, you can do it. Everyone has the will to do it. But here's the thing: if you want it, you got to ask yourself, how damn bad do you want it? Because you're gonna go through some shit to get it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna go through.
It's not just gonna come to you for free, man.
No, you're gonna go through some shit to get it. So you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? But listen, you go through that storm, man. Every storm, there is that rainbow at the other end. And. I like to, I always go with, bad times don't last, so don't stress too much.
Right.
But good times don't last either, so enjoy every minute. And I think that's what I like to live by. So, other than that, I just like to be living proof that anything's possible. And if you want something bad enough, anything's achievable. It's never too late in life, and it's just gotta have the will to live. Not just a will to be alive, but a will to live.
Right.
And that's what's important. So that's what I'd like to leave it off with.
That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
That was good, huh?
Yeah. Good interview. Was that good?
No, that was great.
Did I give you?
My problem is I don't know what to end with.
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, I can end